Napier does speak about, what the bye week meant for quarterback DJ Lagway.
The offense during the bye week, what did you feel like you accomplished, and what were some of the, points of emphasis or concerns in terms of that?
Yeah, I think more, we did quite a bit of just 11 on 11 full speed work with DJ, just trying to get caught up for him. I think that was important. Just more live bullets, with him and the other players. And I think that that's what he needs, and I think that that's ultimately what we decided to go with. So we did quite a bit of competitive work, ones-on-ones, twos-on-twos. Obviously, some of the players that have played a lot of snaps around here, we tried to take care of. But, in general, I thought that was beneficial for him and what he needed.
When you said Thursday, because last year, I think you referenced later in the season how that Thursday practice was like maybe one of the best you'd seen. Did you see something, any spark last week, maybe similar to a year ago that might ignite this thing?
Yeah, seeing a look in Tu's eye, I think that's important. I think that's ultimately, I'm trying to get, we're trying to do our best for him, in terms of creating an environment where he can continue to get back in his rhythm. That's the most important thing right now.
Well, there's Napier there, and here we are talking about, we had to reference last year's bye week again. Shouldn't that, I was under the impression whatever they did in that bye week last year, they were going to carry over into the offseason. So kind of going back to your point you made earlier, well, how many times can you keep going back to that well of, we'll turn things around during the bye week. We did it last year. Okay, you had a whole offseason to do that too. But I think the hope as far as this regard goes, Will, is there a switch for DJ Lagway? And not that one that he can just flip when he wants to. One that flips when he gets enough reps, when he gets all those live bullets Billy Napier's talking about there. Does that exist? I think we have to ask the question. We don't know whether it does or not, but you got to hope all those reps last week in the bye week pay off for the ones that all the ones he missed in spring and fall. If there's going to be, it's got to come at some point if DJ Lagway is going to turn it around. And you mentioned Nick's message earlier about having a good week of practice last week and hitting a deep pass and quoting Lagway saying I'm back. Well, that's all well and good. We will have to see it on the field with 11 versus 11 against Texas on Saturday before everybody's willing to jump on board and be there. But you have to explain it when you're asked a question that way if you're Napier, but kind of going to that storyline. Yeah, they're all the reps eventually to me are going to have to add up to some positive outcome for DJ Lagway if he's going to be the guy that we think he can be. It's just hard to know with all the time he missed, when is it going to flip? Is it going to flip? I think it will. So I guess that's why I'm wording it the way I'm wording it. If, when will it flip? I believe it will. I still think there's something there now. Will he live up to the expectation that I put on him before this preseason, before you put on him in preseason? Probably not with the way so far he is behind. But I still think there's something there where he can be a competent, good quarterback.
Yeah, even competent and good is disappointing for the guy who's the Gatorade Player of the Year, right?
It is.
I think. How do I respond to this? I would say that unless Lagway was live and they could hit him, I think it's really hard to fix what was going on during that bye week. Because the thing that I saw was that even when he had good pockets, he was dropping in his eyes early and he was looking to escape pockets, even when the pass protection was good. He was going through his progressions too quick. There was a really good, I think it might have been Aaron Murray did a film breakdown of what he was doing on some spacing, and he was like getting to his second and his third guy before his shoulders and his head was able to manipulate the defense. So the whole spacing concept fell apart because Lagway was going through his progressions too quickly, which, is something where it's like, okay, you got to kind of pace yourself to allow a linebacker to move, to open up the next space and open up the next space. Can that get fixed? I mean, we'll see. I mean, yes, some of the pacing and some of the timing on the progressions, but again, I mean, I get that he was sitting there all year long or all off season long, but the guy didn't have a hurt calf during the spring. He had a hurt shoulder. So like taking a snap and taking your drop and looking at the progressions are all things he could have been doing back then. The only difference now is he's got to let the ball go with good footwork and get the ball there. Now, that's been a struggle at times too this year, is, being accurate with those sorts of things. But, a lot of it has been either guys haven't been open, the play call's been bad, the pass protection's broken down, or he's felt the pass protection breaking down even when it hasn't. And that last part is the one that worries me, because when you're a quarterback, you saw this with Sam Darnold with the Jets. He even came out of the game, he started talking about seeing ghosts. And what that really means for a quarterback is, instead of looking downfield for the big play, your eyes are going down so that you're looking at the defensive line to seeing, to figuring out, how am I going to get out of this pocket? And, that's what I've seen the last couple of weeks with Lagway. Is I don't, not going to put words in his mouth, but is a little bit of that Sam Darnold with the Jets seeing ghosts type of stuff. And those are the things where obviously Darnold's come out of it and has been a very, very good player in the NFL since then, the last couple of years. But it took time. It took the right offensive coordinator. It took a scheme that sort of accentuated his strengths and mitigated his weaknesses. And I mean, the funny thing is that it's almost like, by having an off season for this coaching staff to talk to him about the nuances of their offense, that he has now, they have now figured out a way to jam a square peg into a round hole, rather than just going, do what you did the last 4 games of last year. You throw a couple of picks, no big deal. But let's read back to front, because you seem to like going deep and you seem to like taking those shots. And, Bud Davis has been harping all year long on heavy box, zone, and Florida doesn't know what to do with it. Right? You play zone behind a heavy box. You can't run the ball. You can't run them out of it. And they're playing zone behind it, and your quarterback can't fit it into those zones, is going through too quickly through his reads. So, I don't have a ton of hope that things are going to turn around against the best defense in the country. And if it was like 4 games in and you're like, yeah, Texas hasn't really played anybody other than Ohio State, and Ohio State's had some struggles too, and all that sort of stuff, I'd be like, okay, that's one question. But the problem is Texas had like the best defense in the country last year too, right? So it's like this is a multi-year sample size of this team being an elite defense. So, it's great that he's looked great in practice, that he's been chucking the ball deep, that they've got answers, hopefully, for some of the stuff that defenses are doing to them, and they've been able to go back and look at the film and kind of figure that out. But let's be honest, the minute Lagway shows that he can defeat the things that defenses have been throwing him over and over and over again, Texas is going to have 2 or 3 wrinkles off of that, where they're going to say, hey, let's see if you've prepared for the next thing on the exam, right? And if all he's prepared for is the exam he's already gotten, this defense is good enough. Like, I haven't seen much nobody has had to do much post-snap movement, because when you do post-snap movement on defense, it gets you out of position. And no one's had to do that, because they've just sat in their base defense and said, we don't think you can read it. And that's what's happened. And so, there will be a time where he gets to a point where he proves he can read that. And now the next thing is going to be, all right, we're going to show you middle of the field open, and then we're going to switch to middle of the field closed. And you're going to chuck one right down the middle of the field. We're going to have a safety sitting there, or vice versa. And, is he going to be prepared for that when it comes? I think Lagway has the ability to do it. I'm not sure that, since they're playing catch up, as Billy Napier says, that they have the ability to prepare him. Like, the thing they ought to be preparing for this week is not like getting Florida and Lagway prepared to where he can run the offense. They ought to be getting prepared for the best defense in the country on the other side of the ball. And instead of preparing individually for the opponent, they're just trying to get everybody caught up. It's not a good place to be when you're heading into the gauntlet that Florida's about to head into.
Yeah, that's a delicate balance right now of trying to bring him along while game plan at the same time. I mean, and I asked him that question a couple of weeks ago in the SEC teleconference and kind of danced around it. Not really a straight answer towards that. And It's really just about, the progress of Lagway pretty much is where he kind of just falls on that. But it is. I mean, it's a crazy balance right now of having to get your quarterback just game ready and trying to catch him up through 4 games of where he should be. But yeah, he's nowhere near that right now. And that's kind of goes back to how I introduced it was when does the switch flip? I guess if it does. But here is DJ Lagway talking about it too, of what they worked on during the bye week. Will, you mentioned some of that right here, and let's hear from the quarterback on his progress through the bye week heading into Texas.
Guarantee that things would change. How have you seen the guys rally around that message during the bye week?
Oh man, it's been great. We had a lot of tough conversations, as a leadership group and stuff like that. But I feel like we're in a great space and ready to attack the week.
And Billy specifically said that you had a look in your eye this week. How much has this week meant for you and your personal confidence?
Oh, it was great. Just get out there and compete. Honestly, this is my first really week of just good on good reps the whole practice. So it was just great to get out there and compete against the first team defense that's been playing really well. So just always good to go out there and compete and have fun. And yeah.
Do you feel caught up yet?
Say it again?
Do you feel caught up yet?
For sure, yeah. I feel.
It's a long time to miss.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's always continued development in the game. Of course, just missing those 9 months were priceless. But I definitely feel like every single day I'm getting caught up to the speed and getting better.
A lot of people are going to sit here and overanalyze, don't really know. Looking at your mechanics, looking at footwork, all these things. What is something that you went in last week on, this is something that I got to work on to get better, to play better?
Yeah, I definitely say just my pocket awareness and pocket movement, and stuff like that, working on my pocket movement, keeping my base, finishing through throws and things like that. And I feel like that's something where, the practice and the reps come in place, just getting used to the pocket, continue to fill in it. But I feel like every single day I'm getting more comfortable in it and getting better.
How do you process, just not playing to your standard? How do you go about kind of processing that in your head? It's like anybody who's competitive, man. You're going to kind of brood on it, be frustrated, but you got to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not frustrating. It's very frustrating, but like we talked about in the beginning of the offseason, always got to have a good process. Sometimes you may not get the results that you want, but being process-oriented and always finding ways how to better your process, and the results going to come.
And last week, you feel like you made a lot of strides?
Yes, sir. I feel like I know the results haven't been looking the way they are for me personally on my playing level, but I feel like every single week I'm getting better and better, and eventually it's going to pop. And when it pops, it's going to be hard to stop. I'm telling you that now.
Coach Napier talked about downfield passing is a little bit of a point of emphasis during the bye week, and that's how you kind of popped on the scene. I mean, how did that go for you, and how confident are you that, maybe that aspect of the offense can change?
Yeah, for sure. It was great week of practice, last week, and being able to connect down the field with some marquee guys, and just having that confidence, and that ability just to trust my receivers and just continue to build that chemistry with those guys are priceless. So, yeah.
How do doubts and losing games fuel you?
Yeah. I'll say I really, that definitely fuels me. Nobody likes to lose, and if you're on this team and you like to lose, you shouldn't be on the squad, and that's point blank period, and that's kind of what we're preaching, as a leadership group. But I'll say, it definitely lights a fire under you. Nobody likes to lose, so every single day I'm stepping on the field, every single day I'm watching film by myself with my guys or with Coach O'Hara or Coach Napier. I'm being very meticulous, very, everything matters. So, yeah.
There we go, hearing from DJ Lagway and his progress during the bye week. And, well, kind of based off of coming off of what we just previously talked about, Napier talking about Lagway. Part of this for me, too, is there ever a point, and I talked about flipping the switch, but I guess on a more basic question in that same line, is there ever a point where he just feels comfortable? I mean, that's where it's at for me right now. I don't know how comfortable he is. Missing all that time, he doesn't look comfortable, and I wonder what he trusts. I don't think he trusts himself right now. I don't know if he trusts the offense right now. I mean, in front of a microphone, he's going to say all the good things, but the play on the field doesn't show me that he trusts what he sees out there right now. He doesn't trust what he needs to do in this offense. Does he trust himself? Does he trust the offensive line? Does he trust the offense in general? I mean, I just don't know if there's ever a point he's going to feel comfortable enough, at least going to the level you and I want him to be at. But maybe it gets to an acceptable level. But man, he could go out there and play good Saturday and Florida still lose this game. And right now, that's all that matters. You're 1-3. Wins and losses are all that's going to matter. DJ Lagway can go out there and throw for 350 yards on Saturday. But if Florida loses this game, it's not going to make us all feel better, because now you're just staring 1-4 in the face. Kind of going to the earlier point that you made, the equity's gone. You've kind of dug your own grave here. I hope for him he can go out there and have a good game and maybe something you build on. But man, he's got to just feel comfortable first. I don't know if he's going to get to that point.
There's one quote there that he said, and I hadn't listened to Lagway until you just showed that. There was one quote there that just made me like sit up straight and go, oh my God. The first week of good on good reps that he's had this season, the first week of good on good reps that he's had this season.
Could he have meant that it's the first full week I've done it?
Well, I mean, if you're going to write a epitaph on the bottom of Billy Napier's tombstone when this season's over, it's going to be, he didn't get his starting quarterback any real reps before the season started. And then that quarterback looked like garbage for the first 4 games. And if everything turns around, I will like that statement right there. If Lagway throws for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns and Florida loses, is going to be how I start my recap article. It's going to be, you had an opportunity. Yeah, and I don't know how serious the injuries were, and I don't know what they were trying to do in terms of babying him along and all those sorts of things. But what were you doing before Long Island? What were you doing before USF?
Now I've asked those questions many a time.
And then after that, what were you doing before LSU? You didn't need fantastic quarterback performances in those. You needed competent quarterback performances in those games. And look, I mean, even against Miami, like competence would have gotten them to where they needed to go. And if a first week of good on good reps all of a sudden restores DJ Lagway to being a star, then what that suggests is that the staff has zero idea of how to prepare a quarterback for the season, which honestly shouldn't surprise me, given that we saw the Miami and Texas A&M games last year and the Utah game and the Utah and Kentucky games the year before. Yeah. And it's funny, even if you look at that Kentucky game where Mertz had pretty good numbers, like he was terrible in the first quarter and the game was over by the time it was. So
I saw your own jazz hands there.
You did. I don't know what they've done with my favorite recruit ever. Like I just don't know what they've done. Like I watched the kid in high school and no one can stop him. I watched him last year and no one can stop him. And somehow they've figured out a way to like completely take away all of his confidence, make him try to execute an offense like Graham Mertz, even though he was never going to have Mertz's accuracy at those short and intermediate distances. And they've taken away his ability to go deep. So look, they're going to open it up this week and Florida's going to lose 35-31 or something. And there'll be a bunch of Napier defenders who are like, look, he's so close. It's like he's been so close for 4 years now. And so close doesn't matter in college football. It makes zero difference. And that right there, the first week of good on good reps for a guy who obviously has been injured, and you keep talking about having to get him caught up. We got to get him caught up. Well, at some point, you got to take a risk. And the risk after you look like garbage against USF is to take a step back and go, you know what, we're going to put on full pads 3 days this week. And maybe we're going to be a little bit sore heading into that LSU game, but our quarterback's going to be prepared to go. And instead, we wound up with 5 interceptions and then a guy who looked really scared to throw an interception the next week. And, you know, yeah, I don't know, man. I got nothing.